How low below asking price should you offer on that home that you are interested in? That's what Michelle and I are going to
Mhm.
talk about today. My name's Corey Mills. Obviously, I'm here with Michelle Castle on the Unlocking Doors podcast. So, Michelle,
Mm,
we've seen some properties that have sat on the market for a little while in
mhm,
this market. Some
mhm,
of them taking a little bit longer, some of them
mhm,
not quite as long.
mhm.
Um, Whenever you have buyers that talk to you about financing, they say, because they talk to you about their offer just as much as they talk to us realtors
Right,
sometimes.
right.
What do you do whenever they tell you, "Hey,
How
we want
far?
a lowball"? Like, what is your
Yeah.
first thought that runs through your head?
Well, I mean, number one, first, really, how long has the house been on the market?
Right.
How many price reductions has the buyer had or seller had? And I always, I've been a buyer and I've been a seller plenty of times.
Hmm.
So have you. And I think there's just so much more to the story than just the number
Right.
on the listing, right?
Yeah.
So, what kind of position is the seller in? Why has it been on the market? Was it priced too high in the first place? I don't, there's really not a generic answer for that. And
Hmm.
I still, but a lot of times why the buyer's asking that is because they just want to be able to afford the house and feel like they got a good deal, right?
Right. Right.
And I always think a good deal is really a state of mind, right? So if you paid full price, you don't feel like you got a good deal,
Hmm.
but you don't know if you got a good deal because maybe the house just was reduced, right?
Yeah.
So, I want to ask you, and then we'll talk about some scenarios. I want
Okay.
to ask you, like, statistically, what are buyers paying? Like, how much off sales price is, or what does that look like right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So in December of 2023, we
Hmm.
saw that buyers were paying here in Grayson County, Texas. They were paying roughly 91, 92% of the listing price. And that
Okay.
was of the original listing price.
Oh,
Um, sorry, I have to double check that. I think it was the original listing price.
okay.
So that takes into account if they had already reduced that
Okay.
uh, a time or two. Um, in January, that was 94%. Now we're around 96%. So as we get into the spring market, we're seeing it pick up a little bit.
Hmm.
People are paying a little bit more of listing price. And so it does, and I agree with you 100%. It's not just a what percent off should we ask?
Hmm.
That's not to say that every single listing that hits the market, you're going to get it 96% of the
Hmm.
listing price.
Right.
So that is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
You said you had some scenarios.
Yeah.
What are your
So,
thoughts on
I
that?
think about, well, so often right now, buyers are wanting seller concession, right?
Right.
And so to me, and I have seen, we've had several people miss deals because we're back to multiple offers.
Right.
So they're wanting to offer below list price and ask for $10,000 in seller concession
Right.
or more in some cases.
Hmm.
So if you're going to ask for seller concession, realizing you can't lowball too.
Right.
So I had a customer that I was just talking to. I mean, the list price is 260 and the offer was going to be 245 and they were asking for seller concessions.
Right.
That's way off the market.
Yeah.
And so, but it was a way for them to afford the house.
Right.
Well, maybe you're shopping in the wrong price range if that's what if you need to structure the offer that way.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm thinking wrong on that and you've got a different take. I mean, would you present that offer?
So I would always present the offer. Because here's the thing, and whether it's my listing or if I represented the buyer, I mean, if I represent the buyer, like I'm sending the offer
Okay.
and I'm like, yeah,
Look at you. I'm sending the
yeah,
offer
like
because you just never know.
maybe it's going to work.
Hmm.
Also, if I am representing the seller and I get an offer like that,
Hmm.
I'm going to send it to them and I'm going to give them a net sheet that shows like based on how the offer is written,
Hmm.
here's what here's what you're going to walk away with, here's the
Hmm.
terms, here's the timeline.
Hmm.
And there's sometimes where a seller is begging for an offer like that. And maybe they were hesitant to drop the price for whatever reason, but whenever an offer comes in, like I do have a listing where I know that they have some flexibility, but they don't
Hmm.
want to drop the price. They're like, no, the
Mm.
price is what it is.
Okay.
Or we're going to ask what we're asking, but we'll look at all offers. And so it's kind of interesting that some people have that mindset.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it's not my property, it's not my money, and I'm not going to be the gatekeeper of
Ooh, good point.
somebody's decision,
Yeah.
with their property and their money. I'm going to let them know what I think. I'm going to let them know the pros and cons of each offer.
And you're running a CMA on each one.
Yeah, and I'm also running a net sheet so that they can see very closely what they're going to walk away with. Because first off, if you're a real estate agent and you're not sending a net sheet with every single offer
Oh.
that you get, I mean, your sellers deserve to see that. If not, like I have taken listings in the past where, and this is like a huge side note, but I've taken listings in the past that expired at, and then I'll just use the exact numbers. So it was listed at, they started at like 650. By the time they had dropped the price at the end of the listing period of 6 months, it was like down to 600.
Okay.
So they dropped it 50,000 in the listing period. And then whenever I took over the listing, I asked the buyers, well, what's your payoff? Y'all built a pool and financed it. What's the payoff for that? And at their 600,000 listing price, they were going to have to bring like 15,000 to closing.
Did they know that?
They didn't know that.
What?
Because their realtor didn't tell them.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely blew my mind. And so that's why I'm like, number one, if you're listing a property, like before you put it on the market, send them a net sheet so they can see what the numbers are. And when you get an offer, send them a net sheet based on how that offer is written. And even if you want to, counter offer and you all want to run a scenario, like just take the time to do it.
Well, I mean, to your point, I can't remember how many points in the contract is a negotiable item, right? And dollar signs associated with a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so unless you analyze what does that offer really mean to my seller, or as a buyer, understanding what you're asking the seller to pay for, yes, you may have just checked the box that says the seller's going to pay the title and the home warranty and the survey and this and that, plus pay closing costs versus maybe checking some of the other boxes differently to help them net more makes sense.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're negotiating a deal that makes sense where the buyer and the seller both win.
Yeah.
And so taking the time to really look and see what am I asking the seller and what's my expectation of the buyer, that's what makes the deal work, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest frustration is communication, to your point. I mean, if the listing agent is not doing, or the seller's agent is not doing that net sheet, when you as a buyer's agent are presenting that offer, then how do you know if you got a deal that would work?
Exactly. And that's, I learned that probably like in my first or second year in real estate, whenever I got an offer that it had some terms in there that I was they sent it over, the buyer's agent called me and he said, let me know what here's what we're wanting to do. Let me know what your seller thinks. And I straight up told him, I was like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. He's probably not going to go for it. I'm going to send it to him and talk to him, but I'm just letting you know, it's probably not going to work. And it was an owner finance scenario. And I didn't think my seller would want to carry it, carry the paper. And I sent it to him and he was like, oh, this looks like a good deal to me. He was like, I'd love to finance this for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, as soon as he said that, I was like, you know what? This isn't my
You
property.
might
It's
have
not
missed a deal.
Yeah. It's not my money. It's not my property. I don't get to make the decision. So that's why as a listing agent, and there's also the whole conversation of like, well, I don't want to lowball them and piss them off.
Right.
But I mean, we're not sitting here saying, hey, your house is ugly. Hey, your hair is ugly. Like we're not insulting.
Don't take it
people.
so personal.
Don't take it so personal. And that's
it's just dollars and cents.
maybe it's a little different because you and I buy and sell so much property. Can
take the emotions out of it.
And we look at it without, throughout the without the lens of emotion tied to it. And maybe that's part of it. But I have some people who just get straight up. They're like, I don't even want to talk to these people anymore. And I'm like, let's give them a reasonable counter offer and see what they say. And then we're right back on track. So I wish I could, give people like how low is too low of a low ball, but there's not.
I like that answer though. Try it.
Yeah.
It's dollars and cents. It either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't work there, maybe it works somewhere in the middle. And that's the whole name of the game.
Yeah. And don't get upset whenever somebody sends you an offer. Cause really when they send an offer over, what they're saying is, I like your property. I have this money that I can qualify for and I'm going to send it to you. So, you know, if you're going to get mad at anybody, get mad at the people that look and don't make an offer
Well,
because they
and
don't like your house.
to wrap it up too, is still, even in the market we're in right now,
Yeah.
homes are bringing pretty close to what the asking price is.
And there are properties that are still getting multiple, like I had a listing get multiple offers this weekend. Sean had a listing get multiple offers, and then he represented a buyer that got multiple offers. And that's just this weekend, you know, going into spring
Maybe it's
break.
shortage of inventory. It's also because there's more buyers out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
it's all
So,
the things.
and the funny thing is like with Sean's listing, it had been on the market for like 4 months.
And then it gets multiple offers.
It gets multiple offers
Yeah.
in the same weekend. And of course, everybody's like, you're lying. You don't have 2 offers. And it's like,
Yeah, I really do.
I really do.
Yeah. But it's also prettier outside.
Yep.
So if you're going to go house hunting, you're not going to do it when it's 30 degrees and, well, 33 degrees and cold rain.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's all we have. If you have questions on how to structure an offer or what the financing needs to look like to make the deal work for you and make it work for the seller so that we can all come to an agreement, be sure and reach out to me. Once again, I'm Corey. This is Michelle Castle. We hope you're doing well, and we'll see you on the next episode of Unlocking Doors.